Hi there, welcome to my channel. In this episode I will be talking about tripods and the support in general especially for wildlife photography. The tripod is the thing that you probably buy last when you're buying your equipment. You buy the camera, you buy the lenses and so on, bag, and then you need a tripod. And often people tend to buy the ones that are available at the local stores. That isn't maybe the best way to do it. So in this episode I will go through some details about the materials of the tripods, the weight, the height, pros and cons, and yeah, some other stuff. And I hope you enjoy. So let's go on. So choosing the material for a tripod is, well, it's kind of a decision point regarding weight, price, durability and so on. So you have normally three main materials. You have aluminum, it's well known, the consumer tripod is often aluminum. And you have a carbon fiber, which is more often directed to the pro consumer or the professionals. And then you have the wooden tripods. Not that rare, not that common, but there are some out there. I will not talk about them. I don't have any experience about wood tripods, so they have the pros and cons, of course. But if you're into that, you probably already know that. So firstly, look at the two main carbon fiber and aluminum. So here you have an aluminum leg. It is probably cheap. It's quite durable. You can rough it around, but it comes with a cost, of course. The cost is that aluminum is metal, and metal gets really cold when it is cold. And don't have to be that cold before you can feel how cold the metal is. So, and it is a little bit heavier than carbon fiber. Carbon fiber, on the other hand, is a little bit lighter, not necessarily much lighter, but it's more plasticky, so it don't get that cold when it's cold outside. And generally, even today, it is about 15 degrees Celsius. It isn't that cold. The carbon fiber doesn't feel cold when I touch it. The aluminum, however, does immediately feel cold. So I prefer the carbon fiber myself, mostly because of that. And it is a little bit lighter, of course. So apart from the cold feeling, the feeling of it's cold or not, you should probably take into consideration in what kind of environment you're going to do photography or videography. If you are close to salt water, the aluminum will probably have some problems with corroding, especially if you are putting the legs in the water. It will take a really good clean afterwards to keep it stay healthy, so to speak. The carbon fiber isn't that sensitive, of course. There are the parts on it that is of metal, so it will be affected by salt water. If you are working in a cold environment, or semi-cold like it is now, 15 degrees Celsius or below, definitely choose carbon fiber instead of the aluminum. And if you are working in really, really cold, I think you should go for a wooden tripod. When it's really cold, the carbon fiber will be very brittle, and also the aluminum will be affected by the cold weather. But that is really, really cold. And I usually don't shoot at those temperatures. So some other things to consider when buying a tripod is how heavy your equipment is. A camera with a lens and a tripod head and other accessories like microphone, external screen and so on. Your tripod must be manufactured to hold those weights, otherwise it will be crumble and fall if you are unlucky. So of course that is one factor, and I'm a wildlife photographer, so I usually have a camera That's very common by wildlife photographers, and a big lens, in my case a 600, and with a teleconverter. So that makes up a quite heavy load of about, well, 7-8 kilos sometimes. So the tripod, and then of course the tripod head on top of that, so it could be up to 10 kilos easily. So your tripod should be rated for at least that, and I should recommend that you put some extra weight so you have a marginal on that. Another thing to take in consideration is the height of the tripod, and to explain that I will have to go a little bit further away. So buying a tripod and trying to figure out the height of it, people often, as I said before, buy what's in the store and take one that they feel comfortable with. This is a standard height. It's around 1.5 meters, and it's very common. And you can also get it up to 170 or something like that. So if we extend this a bit, about so. This is a height, and it's important to remember. It's important to think about that you will have a tripod head on top here, and if you are a wildlife photographer, you will have a long lens, and you will probably have a foot on top of that, and then the lens. So around here somewhere, add about 25-30 centimeters to your eye level, and that would mean it will be here. So if I was to stand here a whole day taking pictures, I would get a very sore back. It is really nice. This height is suitable for sitting and maybe even laying down. So as long as you sit in a height or do that height will work. But if you're standing outside and doing stand-up photography, as we call it, this is too low. Then you have to find a tripod that is much higher. And you can see this one is almost as tall as me, and given this height, well, you can see I cannot stand here and look into the viewfinder. But there are some reasons for that. I will go into that in a second. The main reason I choose a tripod that is much higher than me, there are several reasons, but one is shooting uphill, birds flying, for instance, or up. You will have the camera up and it will be pointing down like this, and you can stand here. If it would be lower, I would have to crouch like this. So a high tripod is very valuable in those cases. But also if you're standing in the downhill and your tripod legs are lower than you and you want to shoot straight out, then it will be very, if you have a short tripod, you have to sit down instead, you cannot stand up. And also to make all tripods more sturdy, I usually extend them fully and then take about 5 centimeters and pull it back in and lock them. And that makes the joint much more stable than if I have it fully out. And you have to do that in all the leg parts. You will see it takes off 10 centimeters on each leg, so it will be lowered. But it will be much more steady. And that is important for me, I think. So that is why I choose a higher tripod than myself. Downside, well, you can talk about how many legs you have. The fewer legs, the sturdier, generally speaking. And that is because there are no joints. And for each tube that has to go into another tube, it will get smaller in diameter. So if you have lots of legs, you have to have a really thick tube in the top to have a decent size in the bottom of the tripod. So I've ended up with 3 legs. The downside for that is when I'm traveling, I have to fit this into a suitcase, and I have a suitcase that this fits in actually. you can put it in without, I take off the tripod head and put it in, and so it works okay. So that was a little bit about height. So if you're laying down, you can have almost any size tripod. You can have one like this, for instance. It's very short, and if you're choosing one of these big ones, you have to make sure that the tripod column, which most tripods have, is removable. So on the other tripod I have here, this is a removable column, so I have bought a shorter one. Normally this would go all the way down here, and if you fully open up the legs, you understand that the tripod column would take contact with the ground before the legs do that. So getting low means getting rid of the center column. So next topic is looking at the base plate of the tripod. There are two main designs here. You have the standard base plate, a fixed flat one with an I won't go into the dimensions here, I will just mess that up. A fixed plate with a screw on it, and you have this ball head kind of type screw base plate. So why is this? Well, this is the most common one. It is almost on every, not every tripod, but it's very common. You put on your tripod head and then you adjust the angles and so on the tripod head. On this one you can adjust directly here. So why is this important? Well, if you are trying to do a panoramic photo, landscape, you have to make sure this, the whole tripod is leveled, and there is often some kind of label or something like that to a level that you can adjust, and you adjust it by moving the legs up and down or pushing them in and out. On this one you just release the bottom lock here screw and tilt it and lock it. It is much faster to get this in a horizontal view, a horizontal position. And especially since I'm doing lots of videos, I don't want my tilting, I don't want my shot to be slightly tilted, so when I pan it will go down or up like this. So I usually do a quick setting with this, and I don't have to, you can have the tripod like this and you can still almost get it leveled. Well, that isn't a problem, you think? No, it isn't, because if you put up your tripod you probably are quite stationary, so you will have time to adjust the legs. But often you have to move. There are some branches or something in the way, the birds or whatever wildlife you're photographing is moving a bit, and you just have to adjust a little bit. And that small movement is enough for you to have to adjust once again. And that can be a pain, especially if you're taking video. So that's another choice for you. What kind of base plate do I want? Okay, we're working our way down along the legs here. We left the base plate, we're going down to the adjustment of the length of the legs. There are two very common mechanisms for this. You have the twist lock, like this one, and you have this flippy floppy, or whatever you can call it. It certainly has a name, but I can't remember right now. So there are some advantages and disadvantages, pros and cons with both of these. This one, the twist lock, is very non-mechanical. Can I say that? You have this ring that when you tighten it, it locks the tube so this one doesn't go. It's rubber and plastic and no metal whatsoever. Very few moving parts, so it's probably quite durable. On the other hand, we have this one. It's a more complex mechanism. It's a casing based on tension and releasing tension and creating tension just with a twist. Not the twist lock that is, but with this lever here. And but as you can see, there are more parts here, and there are screws and nuts, and yeah. The pros on this one is less things that can go wrong. The pros on this one is that it's quick, and then the opposite. This takes longer time and it's more fiddly, in my opinion. These have more moving parts, and if the leg isn't tighter, you just turn it a little bit more. If the leg doesn't get tighter, you have to have a tool, and you have to open it and adjust the tension with a tool so it snaps on. I actually prefer this one. We can call it the quick lock. Yeah, the quick lock. It is one movement: snap, open, adjust, lock. And I can do it from this angle and from this angle, and I can do it in the dark because I can feel it. And it's easy to handle with gloves as well. This one I think is good if you're standing in water, because there are no metal parts in it, and it doesn't get affected by salt water, for instance, in that way. But it takes often several twists before you can loosen it, and then you have to several twists to lock it again. And my brain doesn't always work as it should, so from below I twist my hand on one direction, but if I'm standing, I'm twisting on another direction. So that confuses me sometimes. I can't remember which way to turn. I often think about other things when adjusting trouble. I think about composition, light, also not to be stealthy and so on. But here I don't have to think. I feel it, blap, open, blap, lock down. But there are some pros and cons, and depending on where you're working, on how your brain works, if it works differently than mine, feel free to choose. So let's head down further down on the leg. At the bottom of each leg you have these rubber studs, and there are several models here. We have those with just a rubber cap that sits on the end of the tripod, and it doesn't do anything else but protect the tripod legs from the dirt and making sure it doesn't scratch the surface. But it can come off, which has happened to me when I was in Wakauahatchee in Florida. Luckily I found it. And then you have this one, which has a built-in spike if you're standing on icy or slick surfaces that you want to bury it down. Or you have this one that you can unscrew this rubber point and replace it with a spike like this, different types of spikes. So pros and cons here, yeah. If you use this one, you have to bring a tool, probably, because the spikes don't, they are not like this. They are more thinner, and you probably will have to have a tool to make them sit tight. So you have to carry extra equipment for this. Right now there isn't that much cons. In the beginning, before I learned to tighten them, and they can still happen if they were loose. When I carry it around, it would do like this, and suddenly I would have the pointy thing pulling out, and it also makes a rattle when I walk. I can't hear that. So, but now I learned to tighten them, and I haven't been having a problem with this since then. So, just a plastic cap, fine. Most 99% of the time you don't need anything else but rubbery feet. But if you're working on other conditions and ice and so on, you might consider to have a replacement spike or a built-in spike. So that was the bottom of the leg. We shall now look at the leg angle adjustment. To adjust the leg's angle outwards or inwards, there are probably 3 different kinds of mechanisms for that. You have this very common pull out, adjust and push in. And normally there are, ow, yeah. Normally there are 3 already set positions on the base plate. So you cannot vary them too much. So pull out, push in, and you have, I don't have that kind of tripod right now, but you have one that is spring loaded, so you just push with the thumb and you can adjust it, and when you release it, it automatically locks. I used to have one of those, but it was kind of fiddly, especially with the gloves, to get the right pressure on it. And yeah, but it is nice if they are actually spring loaded, because when you're going from fully extended, you want them, when I flip them back, it's nice to have them to click and lock automatically, so you don't have to do this extra movement here. So you unlock it, you adjust it, and boom, they are locked. Now you have to go up and do the locking and adjust it. So that's a nice feature. I don't have them anymore. So pull and push. The other thing is, when we're wearing gloves, you must make sure that you have a firm grip of the locking part here. Sometimes it can be quite thin, so to speak. The grip isn't that hard, and when it's cold and your fingers are a little weak, it can be hard to change them. So if you're doing cold weather photography, try the tripods with the gloves on. The other part here is there's nothing to pull out here. Instead, you push in from the inside and adjust, and you lock from the outside. So that means also that when you probably can do the same there. If I put pressure on this now, it automatically, very quickly locks into place. And I think that is the same here, of course, if you do that. Yeah, but I usually don't do that. So push out and pull out, 2 different. So what is there to prefer? Well, I found this one easier to handle with gloves, since I don't have to use my fingertips or anything. I can just grab on there and it comes out. And that is the negative point. Sometimes when I move it around, if I hold too high up, I can accidentally unlock it. So, well, I think it's a matter of choice here actually. But I prefer this one, the pull-out. It seems a little bit all the weathery, all the temperature working. I have had problems with gloves, especially if they are the slick gloves, that you don't have a real grip surface. And also, one important thing that I appreciate is that when you put the tripod up, the legs stay in position. like this, so I can carry it, move it around without them collapsing. And most tripods do that in the beginning. But this one, for instance, it has a tendency to fall down. Well, not now, of course. And that is because they are constructed in two different ways. So this has a metal rod that goes straight through, and it's attached by two screws in both ends, and one screw in each end. And they are screwed in place, and that works really good in the beginning, but it can be so quite soon that they loosen. And once they start to loosen, you have to do like me. I have a Allen wrench here always with me, because they start to loosen. And when they start to loosen, it's getting really fiddly. As soon as you lift the tripod up, especially when they are fully extended, one leg goes down, boom, like that, and then you have to put it down, and the leg is now much longer than the others, and you have to balance the weight of the cameras and push that out, and it is really, really annoying. And I didn't get any help from the manufacturer either, so yeah, that is the worst case, I think. On this hand, on the other hand, this one has, again, I don't know, you will probably not see that. There's some tightening screws here in the bottom, so it does the hinge, if you speak, it's solid. You don't have to fiddle with the hinge. Instead, you fiddle here. You adjust the tension on a tension plate on beneath here. So if they are going to loosen up, which they probably will with time, you just go in there and tighten those. Yeah, it's been working much better than this one, because when it was started, I say I have had this for many years, and the first year or two there was not an issue, but with time issue starts with this, at least in this brand. And this is not a review of any brand, so this is about the mechanisms or the different things to consider, not that you should buy this tripod or this tripod. That is not what this video is about. So I think I've covered all about the nooks and crannies, some details. For instance, you have a hook on this one, which is good because you want a stable tripod. So if it's windy outside, you can put a bag with some rocks in it, or even your camera bag to make tension. And there's some accessory rings here. You could clip in something if you want to. And you have about the same here. You have no hooks, but you have these holes here, so you can connect something. But since this has a ball head plate, there are no hooks in this one. So, well, I think we've covered most of it right now. So let's go into the next phase. So the next phase of this tripod video is to remove some legs. And so this is a monopod. You can see why it's only have one leg. And it is the same about height with monopods as with the others. If I could have one that is this high, I would be much more happier. But this is the one, the biggest I've found or put money into. Here you can see they have much more legs, 4 legs, so it makes it easy to stow away. And it has also a fixed base plate with a thick screw, but this one has also, if you try to get closer, the outer screw is concealing a thinner screw, which means that you can actually throw on the camera straight onto the support here, which isn't possible if it is just a big screw, and vice versa. You can have big screws, you can mount a tripod head. For monopods, pros, of course, they don't have that much bulk when you pack them, It's only one leg. It's very easy to carry around. The con is, well, you cannot let go. If you have to take a leak or eat something, or you cannot drop it. You have to constantly stay and hold it, and that make you a part of the tripod system here. So unless you are happy with that, this could be tiresome in the end, standing waiting for an hour to do a movement or so, just constantly standing and shifting like this, or resting the camera towards you, and I bet when it happens you are not ready to, so you still have to stand there. So I think that's the biggest downside, and you will probably need, maybe not all the time, but sometimes you are really needing a tripod head, but just up down, the smaller one. You don't need the sides or tilting, because you can tilt it quite easily, and that's the big changes. So up and down, because I usually do like this. If I'm photographing up, I'm leaning it a little bit towards me, or shooting down like this, but you will not get that support that a straight down monopod gives you. And also with this, it gets lower, higher, lower, higher, so it affects your position as a photographer as well. Yeah, I think that's about monopod. It's also good for self-defense. Well, self-defense with tripod, well, not for humans or anything like that, but if you encounter an angry bird, a capercaillie for instance, it could be nice to keep it at a distance, much easier. It works with these well, but yeah. Or if you have some angry birds flying over your head, you can have this close to your head and they won't pick on your head. Oh, that's more of a side note. Don't buy a monopod to keep off birds from attacking you. Stay away from the birds instead. Okay, so there are some other supports I'd like to mention as we are here, so let's do that. So I hope you can see me in the frame right now. The next support I would like to talk to you about is the Beanbag. The Beanbag is perfect for car photography, that is photography from the car. You can put it on the windscreen and you have a really nice support. If you put the lens on here, it will work, but glass, I've noticed that glass can actually scratch the surface of the lens, not the glass, but on the casing. So you should have something here in between, but it is very unstable, so you have to hold it. It works for shorter periods, but if you have something and you want to have a perfectly still shot, a beanbag is the way to go. Of course, pros and cons with the beanbag. First off, you have to fill it really tight if you're using on the glass, because otherwise with shaking and so on, the glass will come up all the way up to the fabric, and then you are as if you were on here. So it must be tight. And it's bulky to carry, so it's good if it has some carrying straps on it. It's perfect for traveling because you don't take the inside with you, you just take the bag, and when you get to the destination, you buy something like beans or something and fill it up. So that's very lightweight. And you don't have to use it like this, you can use it on a flat surface as well. As I often use my car, photographing from my car, sometimes there's some quick situations I can just throw on the bag on the roof like this, because my car doesn't have a flat hood, and put my camera here. So this could be on the surface as well, on the ground. you can have this part as, of course you can try to put it like this, but I usually carry it like this, so just flip it open, put my lens in here. So it's quite versatile. As I said, use it on the ground. Downside with this is that it's the fabric is not waterproof, it's not watertight. So if it's wet, raining outside, or using on a wet ground, it will soak in water or moisture, and the inside, the fillings will absorb that. So in worst case you will get mold and other stuff, or it will just deteriorate the inside. So that's the beanbag. Comes in different sizes. And since I do a lot of photography from my car, I bought this window mount you can see here. It's specially made for, as I said, photographing from your side window on the car. I haven't tested it that much, I'm just trying it out. So if you're interested in a more fully review of that one, if you're more interested in a full review of that one, let me know in the comments. I'm still in the testing period of it, and of course a disclosure, all these things that I've shown you I bought with my own money, and I'm not sponsored in any way from anyone, unfortunately. Please send me stuff, but that's how it is. So I think that is all for now about tripods and support. I will probably think of something when I edit this video and put that in the end. I know that I have missed one thing, and I haven't brought it with me, and that's a ground support, laying flat on the ground. I will show it to you now. Yeah, so that will wrap up this video about supports, and I'm planning to do a separate video on the tripod heads that I use. So if you're interested in that, give me some questions and I can try to answer them in that video. So yeah, thank you for watching, and if you haven't already, subscribe and give it a thumbs up. The channel is depending on the people giving likes and thumbs up, so do that as well. So if you like it, subscribe, thumbs up, write a comment. I like to interact with you, and I see you in the next one. Bye.